DOGE and what DOGE is doing.
Well, yeah, that's for our first episode. Yeah, is that what you want to talk about today?
Yeah,
Because I
and
don't have
that's kind of what I was prepared to talk about, but I think I can switch to any dialogue that you're ready for.
no. Well, I'm not ready for anything. I don't have anything in front of me, so I can't. Like, if you have a question for me, I'm not gonna be able to. I'm not gonna be able to show you any kind of documentation. All I can talk about is the way I feel.
No, that's fair, and I like that. And we talk about feelings a lot, so uh, I know. Let's see. Have you heard about the meeting between Trump, Vance, and Zelensky
Yeah,
yesterday?
I just watched it this morning.
Okay, so I mean, in its simplest sense, how do you feel about that?
I thought it was great. I thought it was well, parts of it. So one, everything to me, it looks like Zelensky during these new meetings with the new administrator. Um, he's trying to still continue to get free money without giving us anything. And it looks to me like what Trump is doing is saying, "Give me your minerals so that we can make this fair trade," rather than just us just giving you money. And I think that's great. Like, that we need to continue to do that. And there was one thing that I was thinking about. Like, I didn't like the fact that it's it almost sounded like, how can I put it? It almost sounded like it was not a fair position for Zelensky, but at the same time, we've been just giving him money, just giving him weapons. So what are you going to give us in return? If you don't give us anything, we're not going to give you anything. So you're at war with Russia, and y'all can do whatever y'all want. Leave us out of it. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely some valid points. So the U.S. has been giving them money for quite some time, as well as most other nations in the world. They had the meeting with Macron the other day, where they were saying they've given 50% or something. I'm not sure the actual numbers, but that was the statement in that last Hansi conference that they had with Trump. uh,
Right, because he
so
was he was promised like 300 billion or something like that, and we only ended up giving him 150, I think. Is that what it was?
I mean,
Yeah,
regardless.
I saw that briefly, but I
Yeah, so
didn't.
regardless, I think it's a simple premise. So, when this new administration came in, the narrative drastically changed. No longer was it the truth that everybody had known for the last, 8 years or however long it's been since the invasion, that
It's been a while.
Putin was the aggressor. Now, this whole dynamic, they're blaming Zelensky in Ukraine for everything that happened. Obviously, that is a drastic change from anything in the past. And, leaders around the globe are coming to the side of Ukraine and standing up with them. Right now, probably just in social media posts, but I hope that eventually turns into legislation passed and the EU and Europe picking up the slack where American democracy is failing there.
I saw an article because I saw that stuff this morning. And I saw an article this morning that was saying that it's kind of like, I don't know what kind of council they have in Ukraine, but like the council came together and they're voting to impeach Zelensky. And it looked to me, because I only saw it briefly, so I'd have to look and see if I'm right on that. But it looked to me like what's happening is Zelensky's not budging from peace talks with Putin. So, and what that means is like he's refusing to go to the table, and he's refusing to give anything to Putin for peace. Period. And it looks like Trump's position on this is, we will continue to give you resources if you give us resources back, but we're not going to do that if you're not going to give us anything. And if you're not even willing to talk to Putin at all, then what are we doing here?
Well, I think the non-starters for Zelensky and Ukraine are how much of their resources they have to give up and how much of their territory they have to give up. Now, what we're talking about in its simplest form is extortion. Like, we are trying to justify the aid that we gave them to stop an authoritarian dictator from power land grab. So we help them. And
Yes.
now, with this new administration, we're saying, if you don't give us your mineral resources and all this money and give up this territory to Russia that was yours, we're not going to help you. And I
What
think as a leader of that nation, he's doing the right thing. He's got to protect his people and stand up to them. I do not
uh
feel at all that what this administration is doing is right. And I think that could be echoed through all the leaders internationally and what they're
do you think
saying.
it's so you think it's better to just give Zelensky and Ukraine money and then you get nothing in return?
Zelensky has agreed to sharing some of the resources. That's already been agreed to. But what we're talking about is Trump is taking it
No,
farther and forcing
he,
them or coercing them
he's
to give up
he's agreeing.
territory.
He's agreeing. No, that's between Putin and Zelensky. That part is between them two. That has nothing to do with Trump. What he's
But
saying
that's what he's
is
coercing. They're
what
saying,
he's what he's
right?
coercing is you need to be at the fucking table and you need to start talking about peace. Whatever peace y'all come up with, you need to sit down with Putin and y'all need to talk about it. And with the resources, what Zelensky is doing is like, so if we give them $300 billion worth of money, he doesn't want to give us $300 billion worth of resources. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of just my taxpayer dollars just going to just everybody else.
And
So
that,
I agree with the current administration on this topic.
do you think? I mean, look at the vote that was in NATO just recently on the anniversary of this invasion. Every nation voted one way to end the conflict or in support of Ukraine. The nations that did not vote in support of that effort were Russia, North Korea, and the US. Like, we
Okay.
are aligned with dictators and many policies right now. However,
I'm gonna
the
disagree.
what?
I'm gonna disagree.
No, I mean that was a fact that that vote was
I hear
aligned.
what you're
Every
saying.
nation was on one side, and you had Russia, North Korea, and China, and the U.S. on the other. Like, known dictators, and we're standing side by side with them. Like, that in a nutshell should show you how misaligned this process is.
I'm gonna disagree for one reason only, and it's because and we had talked about this briefly at one point. Uh, but the agreement that was made years ago is Ukraine will never be part of NATO, and and that is not going to happen. They're never going to be a part of NATO. It's not going to happen. And that's one of the things that Zelensky wants is he's like, well, if you're not going to let me be part of NATO, we're not going to talk about this. Well, it's already agreed upon that you're not going to be part of NATO. So I don't know what we're talking about here. So
So,
it has nothing to do with authoritarian dictatorship. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has everything to do with this was already agreed upon. Shut the fuck up. You got invaded by another country. We're helping you, but we're not going to continue to help you if you're not going to give us anything in return. Like you want to give us nothing. You want to give Putin nothing. You want to give us nothing, and that's what we're talking about here.
and I think that is a travesty. I think the extortion
I
that's
don't think it.
being played at that level early
I don't
on,
think it's. I don't think
you're talking
it's
about Elon
extortion.
Musk, who has threatened to remove Starlink from that area or restrict them from using Starlink to aid in this extortion. It's
Who
extortion
owns?
at so many different levels from the oligarchy. I mean, I don't
Who owns
understand how you can say that when we align with multiple authoritarian dictators that we're in the right. Like that in and of itself which should tell you there's something to be concerned about.
Starlink?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. All right. So that's his prerogative. He can put it anywhere he wants to. It's his. So I
Okay,
don't.
okay, hold on. Like that is the definition of extortion
It's here's the
from
thing
the
is we're
from
not
Trump's right hand man. Like, do you not see that?
here's the thing we're not we're not and we shouldn't be the world police, the world aid givers, the world everything givers. We're giving and getting nothing back. How many times in your life have you just give, and nothing, you get nothing back, and then finally you just break because you get nothing back in return? Like that's what's happening. We're giving and we're getting nothing back. If
So
if Zelensky wants to, if he wants to keep his country, here's your money. What are we getting in return? Because they're not our allies, and Zelensky's not a saint, and he is very corrupt. If you go look back in videos, you can see where, like, I mean, he's responsible for deaths of his own people. Like, he's not a good man. He's not a good leader. He's just all he is like he's well spoken, and right now he's playing the victim because I mean, he's the victim. I get that, and I'm not saying this is the people of Ukraine's fault. I don't think that they should be punished for it,
you
but
kind of are saying
I
that.
don't. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
You,
saying
you're
that
saying
what I'm
unless
saying is we
Ukraine
shouldn't.
gives up their mineral rights to Trump and
That's
his
up to
oligarchs, then they should be subject to being Russian.
because that's between Zelensky and Putin. Putin says, "I want this land." He says, "No, you're not getting it ever for any fucking reason." And then we're funding the war. We're funding it. Like we're the only thing that's standing in between Putin just coming in and steamrolling the country and taking over the entire country. It's because we don't want that to happen. But we
You're
have to
right.
think
You're
about
right.
America first.
Well, yeah, let's focus on that. So we haven't wanted that to happen. The entire world has not wanted that to happen outside of the dictators and oligarchs who think that's okay. Um, so yes, the whole world, EU included, all the European nations, everybody has been trying to help Ukraine fight off this invasion. While it may seem like we are the primary, and we may be, but we also have the most resources and we have a lot to gain from fighting those types of invasions. Like anytime authoritarianism or dictators succeed, democracy takes a hit. And that's what's playing out. You have our own Trump, our own President Trump, relaying disinformation and misinformation from the podium of the Oval Office and the White House. And like it makes us look bad across the globe. And whether you think Zelensky kills his own people or whatever that information is coming from, because I've never heard anything like that. Like we're talking about the deepest depths of conspiracy theory type stuff that uses anything they can to justify their actions. And you're seeing all of that in the DOGE funding. Like it's lies upon lies, and then it's justification to proceed with whatever they're doing. So we'll park that about Zelensky killing his own people because I've never heard of that, and we'll poke that on another day.
He's just as corrupt as everybody else.
Well,
Like
I don't.
you're like I like Zelensky or I support Zelensky. I don't. I support Donald Trump because he's our president, and that's the everybody talks about treason this, treason that. Like, how about we support our president and what he's doing? How about we get
If
behind
it's
his back a little bit?
unconstitutional, I think we can
It's
break
not.
from the support from him.
It's not unconstitutional whenever it's a trade deal.
I get it. I
This
get
is
it. I wasn't
this is
saying
a
that
trade deal.
specific
Like
one is. I'm just saying most of what he's done has been.
everything that's going on with Ukraine right now is it's a trade deal. right now we're getting fucked in the trade deal because we're giving everything and we're getting nothing in return.
Okay, so I don't see it as a trade deal. I see it
I see
as
it as a trade
aid
deal.
against invasion.
So this
If
war
you
with
want to leverage,
this
if you
war
want to
with
leverage support against an invasion with a trade deal, that again defines extortion.
this war with Putin has been going on for so long.
This invasion of
And
Putin has been going on for
and
so long. Yes,
Zelensky
yes.
and Zelensky is not trying to talk about peace at all with Putin because we're giving him money, we're giving him resources, we're giving him javelins, we're giving him drones, we're giving him everything that he needs to keep fighting Putin, right? What's he giving us?
He's
Because
helping
again,
stop the power of an authoritarian dictator.
he's get we can stop fucking Putin.
We
Like
could, however, it
we can
seems
get to
like we're
war with
rolling
him.
over and trying
Like
to
we're
give him what he wants. We are trying to help him gain territory in Ukraine. So
so he
Zelensky saying, I'm
so
not
he
going to
wants
come to the table
right.
unless you get out of my territory, that's a non-starter. And
So
if that's where he wants to start, that's his right. Like he was invaded in
that's between
2019.
them.
If you listen to that meeting that they had, he was saying that they had a peace deal in place until Putin
And they had a
invaded.
ceasefire.
Okay, a ceasefire. Same concept. I apologize for misspeaking, but they had a ceasefire. So when we start talking about diplomacy now, okay, so you had a ceasefire. He broke that ceasefire and invaded. You took over this territory. Now come to the table with diplomacy, give up that territory, and let's start over. So why
Hang on,
would you
hang on.
say that that is
Go,
an okay starting point
go back.
when you can't trust that that can go forward?
Go back. I can definitely tell you why. It's because back whenever that ceasefire started and Putin went into Ukraine, during that time, Joe Biden was trying to get Ukraine to join NATO. That's what kicked this whole
Okay,
thing off.
good. Let them join NATO.
They're not going to join NATO. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. That was already agreed upon years ago by people far superior than me. It's never going to happen. Ukraine's never going to join NATO, no
Okay,
matter how
okay.
bad they want
So
to, no matter how bad you want it to, no matter about how bad anybody wants to. Ukraine's not going to be part of NATO. Period.
okay, so
That's all
let's
there
focus
is
on
to
that
that.
point. Just one second. So NATO is a treaty organization to protect other nations. Would you agree to that?
Well, it's an
It's a
allied.
group of allies
Fucking
sworn to
yeah.
protect one another against invasion. Is that fair to say?
I mean, yeah, sure. It's it's a monthly subscription.
Oh, come on, don't mince words. Is
This
NATO
is what
an
it is.
alliance of nations sworn to protect one another?
No, okay, they're not sworn to protect one another.
They have things that say if one nation's invaded, they will respond. Like they, come on, man.
No,
Like
no, no, no.
I'm
So
breaking it down in the simplest truth and
that's
facts you
separate.
can even comprehend. Let's just focus. What is NATO? A group of nations joining together, swearing to protect one another. Is that fair to say? So, what benefit would anybody have to keep a nation out of that? What reason or logic would anybody have to say you cannot join that alliance of nations that will protect one another? And just by considering it, I'm taking your land. Like, how can even looking at that and saying, well, there was a document that said they wouldn't do it that was written, and that again, we talk about the misinformation along that and how there's not much truth in that. But besides that point, even if that were true, why would that be justification for that?
I can I can agree to you that that really, like, realistically, the only reason that Ukraine can't join NATO is because it's gonna piss off Russia or whatever. I can agree to that, but it was already agreed upon. So the benefit of them not joining NATO ever for any reason
But
already
again,
agreed
that's
upon
not
it.
true. We
It
could
is
talk about
true,
the lack of truth in that. So what that was signed by somebody that was installed at a certain point who was
but it was signed.
loyal to Putin. And
But it was signed.
again, I don't see the truth in that. But even if that were true, all my points are still valid. Even
And it
if
wasn't.
there was
It
somebody in
wasn't.
charge that said we will not join NATO, because they were probably coerced to do it at that time. I mean, if you think about if
I mean,
that was
it
a
was years. It was years ago, and throughout throughout time. I mean, we should revisit that conversation. But right now, I mean, that's the agreement that was made. They're not going to join NATO. That's
I,
that's
I
period. That's
get it,
done.
but when the
There's nothing I
Constitution
can do
was
about that.
written, we agreed that African Americans were 1/3 of a vote. I mean, old documentation needs to be updated. It doesn't make it right.
Just like I'm saying, and then we came up with the 14th Amendment, and here we are. You know, like
I didn't just
it,
say
it should it should
having
it
an
should be
old
updated. You're not
documentation that
wrong.
justifies dictatorship doesn't make it right.
Well, I mean, that's going to be that's a meeting that has to be done with NATO. You know, like I mean, they're going to have to if they come out and they say Ukraine is not part of NATO, then that's what it is. I mean, but currently what it is they can't.
So
Like
let's focus
there's
on
no agreement. There's no agreement here, and everybody keeps saying like this is Trump's deal. He's part of the talks. He's part of the peace talks. But he's not the one saying, "Hey, Putin, why don't you just keep this land over here in Ukraine? Hey, Ukraine, why don't you just give up this land?" He's not the one doing that. Like that's between Zelensky and that's between Putin. Like our whole thing about it is, uh, if you want us to keep funding you, then you're gonna have to give us something in return. It's not really that hard of a
and
concept.
that's and again that is the definition of extortion. The and this is
It's not an extortion whenever it's a trade deal. Like we're giving you something and you're not giving us
utilizing a
anything back.
trade deal or
You're giving
holding a
you
trade deal as
billions of
leverage
dollars.
for support of military support. I'm sorry, for military support is extortion.
We can take that $1 billion and give it to the veterans, and Ukraine can do whatever it wants to. That's the way I feel about it. Like it's another country. I feel the same way about Israel and everybody else. Like I'm not worried about any other country before we
Okay,
fix our
and that
shit
what
here.
about the oh, never mind. That was billions in sales of arms to Israel. Never mind.
Well, there's always going to
Topic
be
change.
hang on, what you're talking about, the billions in arm sales, that's always going to be done. And we're never really going to see that aspect of it because there's always going to be the things behind the scenes that the media is not going to be able to cover. They're not going to cover. And the president's never going to tell us about it. So I'm sure that those deals are always going to be there. So that's money that's always going to be made, no matter who you are.
So you want to talk about DOGE?
We can talk about a little bit of it because I don't know all the shit about DOGE except for what they're doing is going through the government and finding fraud, waste, and abuse. Which we already had a fraud, waste, and abuse department, but I don't know if you've ever called it. But they don't do shit. I mean, we had that in the military, and look what kind of money we were wasting.
Well, again, every organization has their own policies and procedures to stop fraud, waste, and abuse. Most of what bureaucracy is designed to stop fraud, waste, and abuse. And then on top of that, there are other groups that specify in fraud, waste, and abuse, and those oversight committees and things like that. So the idea that all of these
I will agree with you that the department is there, but is it actually doing anything? I don't think so.
So
I haven't seen
no.
it.
Well, think about it. The same things that people complain about bureaucracy, how it takes too long, you have to have all this paperwork. Those are the pieces that prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. Having that validation at every step of the way, which slows down the process and makes people complain, those are the roadblocks to fraud, waste, and abuse. Having all that paperwork in a file, having it be approved by so many levels. And then there are periodic audits at every level of the government. Like, we all know these things. So to go in and say, I'm saving billions of dollars doing this and this and this, when most of it is found to be not true, like deliberate lies. Exactly. I mean, for instance, a Social Security contract that was listed at 232 million was actually $560,000. There was a contract that was canceled for ICE and immigrations that was listed for 8 billion, was actually an $8 million contract, but it wasn't a contract. It was a credit line for something. So it's not like direct savings. And all of these are lies, like the 50 million in condoms sent to Gaza, like, not true. So while there may be some very minor savings, what's actually calculated at 2 billion, it's really quite minuscule.
The only numbers I've seen is, and it's on the, what is it, the DOGE.gov website, or the
That's
DOGE
where
tracker,
these
or whatever it is.
inaccurate numbers are being listed. They actually just removed a lot of these numbers that were wrong because they're being called out for it. But the point is, they're deliberately lying to you.
Did you see what Elon said the other day during the interview about DOGE? He said, like, so one of the reporters asked him a question and said,
nobody's going to bat 1,000.
Hang on. Yeah. So they said that some of these are not accurate. And he said, all right, well, the mistakes are going to be made and we will get better. So, I mean, that's all you can hope for. Like, I mean, DOGE is a new organization, and they're going through fine tooth comb, whatever, all these things. And his guys are reporting the numbers to him. He's reporting the numbers to, it's just going up, right? So
well, let's unpack all of that. So what you're referring to when he said, some of the things I say will be incorrect and nobody's going to bat 1,000, he's using that to cut funding. He cut the 9/11 health fund. They stopped the nuclear safety monitoring. They cut the veteran crisis lines and fired 1,000 people that were fielding phone calls from veterans on a crisis line.
Well,
he canceled the Ebola prevention. And that's what he was talking about. And when he said, I'm not going to bat 1,000 after canceling Ebola prevention. You're going to lose me. No funding was stopped. We corrected it in time. When in actuality, they've had no funding since January 20th. Like, again, lies on top of lies. So
you're going to lose me on that, because
which part?
I want all of the government programs to shut down.
You don't think people should be answering phones, saving veterans' lives when they're calling?
I want them all to shut down, all of them.
Okay,
all federal programs. Like, I don't see the benefit between half of this shit, because what we have to do is, because we are fraudulently wasting a lot of money, and in order to simply balance the budget, we're going to tear these systems down. So we're going to have to restart something somewhere else, because what we're doing now is not working. These programs now are not working. The veterans suicide hotline, how many times do you think I've called that? That does not work. I didn't kill myself, so I mean, it's kind of a bad example. But
yeah, I've called it a few times too, buddy. You and I have both been in dire straits. Think of how those phones went unanswered when people were in need.
It didn't help me at all.
I was still here. Like, I called whenever you called, and you're still here. So whether or not they did help the way you think they did,
of that. Not because of that. The reason I'm still here is because of, one, just my sheer will to fucking survive and live, and two, I had people like you that were surrounded by, that were actually helping me during times that I needed. And I relied on my friends. I relied on my family, and I understand that I understand that some people cannot.
And that's what I was going to point out. Like, there are many soldiers
for that.
Right, and you said the word fine-tooth comb, and I don't think any part of this is being done with a fine-tooth comb. And the amount that's being saved is minuscule. Like, we're talking about 2 billion. And one contract that Musk has with SpaceX is worth 22 billion with the government,
We,
with the Department of Defense. So you talk about
we,
savings, and it's a distraction. So he's like, oh, look over here at this 16 billion that I'm saving, which is a complete lie. It's actually 2 billion. And at the same time, all this other funding is being accepted and swept under the table, like these tax cuts for the rich. Like that should tell you, with the 2 billion they cut, they're probably cutting more in taxes to the wealthy.
who's
So
who's
is it
giving you
really for money?
who's giving you the information that the DOGE cuts are not actually what they're saying?
Multiple resources, and I posted all my resources online in that document. Even
Okay,
DOGE
I'll look
has
at that.
retracted those and changed their numbers. So it's based in their actual receipts that they're posting online. They're saying, "Hey, I saved 8 billion in this," and then they're also sharing the
Now,
receipt and saying it's 8 million. So like even their own
now, what? Hang on,
documentation
hang
is
on.
showing that they're lying.
So where we can agree on the DOGE subject for sure. I'm pretty sure we can both agree on. I don't think it should be Elon that's doing it since he actually does have military contracts. And just like I don't agree with insider trading that goes on inside of Congress and everything else. I don't think that he should be in a position to be able to actually see what the government is doing because that's going to just further benefit him and his businesses. Just like everybody in Congress, whenever they see a new drug pop up, they're like, oh well, let me just go ahead and we're voting on this right now, so let me just go ahead and pop some money into that, and they just make millions and millions upon millions. It's the same thing. It's corruption in itself, and I can agree on that. But what I don't agree on is right now, like Doge is brand new, and it's an audit system, right? So it's been 20 years since we've done anything like this and tried to actually balance the books. Everybody talks about it, but nobody's fucking doing anything. So doing something is better than doing nothing. So that's where I think you're going to disagree with me, but that's my standpoint on it. Like I would rather see Doge in action, auditing the government and trying to find out where this money is going, rather than nobody doing it.
Okay, yes, audit, fine. But you
Because a
don't
lot of
go
that,
in and shut down complete organizations without
why not?
having any awareness of what
Why
they're
not?
actually doing.
Why not? Because he said, send me
Okay.
an email of what you're actually doing. He's like, give
Okay,
me
yeah, but
give me five
people
things
have
that
already
you've
been
done
fired
this
before. So
week.
let's backtrack. So, do you feel that America should have nuclear weapons?
I don't think anybody should have nuclear weapons,
Well, trick
but we
question,
have them.
because we do have nuclear weapons. So,
Yeah, we
do
do
you
have them.
think
So
that America should maintain those nuclear weapons?
I mean, if they don't, they're going to corrode and something bad's going to happen. I mean,
Okay, so
we have to
why
maintain them.
would you go in and one of your first actions get rid of those people that are monitoring your nuclear weapons?
That is a question that's not for me because I don't have the answer for
Okay, so do you think that was right?
that. I'm not sure because from some of these firings and layoffs and stuff like that, um, people freak out and they're like, "Oh, 1,000 people got laid off or whatever," and it's positions that don't have anything to do with like it might be people doing, I don't know, fucking mopping the floors or some shit. I don't know. Like
That's
that's
fair.
that's
Then
why
why did
that's
they
why I'm
instantly start begging them to come back?
not.
And now they can't get a hold of them because they've restricted their access to the corporate email. Like these things have real consequences. Like they came out with this scorched earth methodology, and there's actual consequences. For example, we don't have our nuclear monitors right now because they're unable to get them hired back. The
Well, I
9/11
mean,
health fund
you're gonna
was
you're
stopped
gonna
for a while, and
you're gonna
inclusion
have
go ahead.
you're gonna have that on either side. So like you're gonna have like Trump's brand new into office and he's doing some shit that people don't like. Some people like. Um, whenever Biden was in office, the same thing happened. Like he out the gate, he was like, "Let's leave fucking Afghanistan," and then we left all of our equipment. What would it? Here's my question about that. Like I want to just briefly fucking just mention that real quick. Is because so we left all of our equipment in Afghanistan, right? Do you remember whenever we were in and we had to do 100% ComSec inventory?
Yep.
Like, what would happen if we lost ComSec? Like, we were there until it got located, until we found it, until it, I mean, we could have been facing jail time if we had lost it in the fucking woods or something. Like, I mean, who's those soldiers? Like, I've always had this question. I've always wondered, like, what happened to those soldiers that they left their equipment behind? Sure, they were ordered to, but I was in the military, and people ordered me to do shit, and I got in trouble for it. So, do you see where I'm going with this? Like, the helicopters
I get it.
and the stuff like that, they had ComSec in it, and there's reports of, like, just completely abandoning a facility that had classified information in it that was not destroyed. The ComSec was not destroyed, and then 2 years later uh, you had these motherfuckers doing a parade with our military equipment, and then you find out that they're selling our military equipment to China and other places. Like, like whose soldiers are responsible for that? Because I guarantee that somebody got thrown under the bus, and somebody's sitting in Leavenworth right now because of that, just because of something as simple as a ComSec inventory. I guarantee it happened. Somebody threw somebody under the bus for all that to go down, and that's not a
And
conspiracy.
yeah, I'm not versed on the issues with the Afghanistan withdrawal.
No, no,
I
no.
mean, I know.
What I'm asking for is your opinion on that, because like I said, like we were both soldiers, and we were responsible for our equipment. And if we lost our equipment, we'd be in Leavenworth right now. Like, we were responsible for. I think me personally, I was responsible for like $5 million worth of equipment. I think that's just one Heclos. Like, I
Wait,
mean, what
yeah, I
happened
mean,
if
there
I
were serious consequences for all of it. But
I guess my question is, like, so I have my I have my van. I leave it, all of my equipment, ComSec, everything. Didn't destroy anything. We get back, and we have to do 100% ComSec inventory. And we probably did that before we left, but and then the commander says, "Where's this shit at?" Oh, well, we were ordered to leave it behind in Afghanistan with the Taliban for everybody. All right, so you're going to fucking jail. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure that I don't hear anybody asking that question, because I'm sure it's there. I'm sure it happened to somebody. I don't know who it happened to. I don't have any evidence to support my little conspiracy here, but um, just me being in the military, like where's that shit at? Like, who got in trouble? Like, which one of these fucking slimy ass commanders uh threw their soldiers under the bus? You know, food for thought. Sorry,
yeah,
I got
and
sidetracked.
again,
My ADD.
regarding like the all the stuff about the sensitive intel falling in enemy hands, like you're right. There's always things and procedures you're supposed to follow to prevent that. You talk about the communications. Like, didn't we always have an incendiary grenade
Yeah,
available?
yeah, yeah.
Should we have
And
to,
that was
because we
because of
don't
our
want our
position.
things falling into enemy hands. Like those
Yeah,
are
our
SOP,
position
standard
gets
operating procedure.
overrun. Our position gets overrun, and you're gonna throw a fucking grenade in your fucking shelter. Like, that was. I mean, that's what we had in place. Like what? So what happened? Like, we left, and nobody. Is it nobody followed protocol, or was the protocol put in place by the president to just fucking leave, pack up your shit, get the fuck out of there, and don't worry about anything else because you're not going to have any consequences? I don't think so. I don't think that's what happened at all. I think it was a half-ass pullout. I know you're very passionate about January 6th. You mentioned it to me several times. Rightfully so. I understand that. I'm passionate about the Afghanistan pullout because it directly relates to me. And my military service,
and just things that we went through. Like these soldiers that were there during that withdrawal. Like, I mean, I can't imagine what they're actually going through, because I know some of them got fucking in trouble. Some of them probably have some kind of PTSD about just the airplanes taking off and the people hanging onto the planes and falling off. Like, I mean that's whew, that's a lot. That's a lot. And on that case, I would say that it would be fair to say that the suicide hotline for veterans should probably be in place for something like that. And
We can agree on something.
yeah,
We
like
found common ground in
yeah,
our
yeah,
first
yeah, we did,
try.
yeah, we did, yeah, we did, yeah, we did, yeah, we did.
Hot damn.
So, I mean, and that's I mean, we can both agree on that because one, we're human, and two, um, we both served and we both can see shit like that happen. So
Hey,
there's that.
I think
But
I've told you probably too many times that I feel the disinformation aspect is a major component and probably everything we're going to discuss
I
because
want to
there,
discuss that. Like,
you
I
know,
think I think I want to discuss that so badly. Like, I think that's like the most important thing that we can actually discuss, like, amongst ourselves, is
yeah,
like, so I know you're very fact based, and what do I see? Um, this is the issue, and I keep trying to come up with a way to explain my issue with that, like the disinformation, and like everything that you say is always like if it has to do with Trump, is always he's doing nothing but disinformation and he's doing nothing but lying. I can see that absolutely backwards. I can see that he's a patriot and that he's actually doing what he thinks is best for this country. I can't say the same thing about Biden. I didn't see that from him, because all he
okay.
was
So
worried about was
I'm
pulling
gonna
out
work on a
Afghanistan.
rebuttal, but I got to go pee first. So if you just give me a bio break for one moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I've returned. Now I'll let
Okay.
you finish your thought.
So my thought on all of the lies and deception is, consider your source, and even if it's multiple sources, consider your source. And I say that because um, some of our past conversations ended up with you talking about like somebody like Politico, and then Politico receives federal funding. So I wouldn't trust anybody that that receives federal funding, no matter what side, no Republican or Democrat, no matter which side is in office. If a media outlet, a news outlet, is receiving federal funding from the government for any reason, it doesn't matter what the reason is. To me, that's misinformation right there, and um, that's just that media company, um, you know, spewing out their agenda. And so my question is, like, what do you know is true, and what do you know is fact? Because if you're relying on a lot of these resources, a lot of it is just opinion, and a lot of it is not fact, and a lot of it is um I think it was Patrick that sent me something the other day about something, and I could see the point that he was trying to make, but the verbiage of the whole thing was, what did it say? It said something. Let me look here. It's exactly related to what we're talking about now. 1 second.
See, this is where we'll use our fancy editing tools to input the Jeopardy theme song. Doo.
I'm reading it right here. It said something like this news article that he sent me. It said, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing because it's between me and him. But the news article said something along the lines of the new policy by the DHS is seen by many, and so the verbiage there is basically it's my opinion. It has nothing to do with this is true. So so my whole thought on what's true is whenever the president speaks, and it's Trump, Biden, whoever, listen to exactly what they're saying because they're telling you exactly what they're doing. And if you start listening to um, media outlets, then they're going to say stuff like, as seen by many. And so, I mean, as seen by many, that could be, there's 3 cars in this parking lot right now, and that could be the many, like, like it, it wasn't seen by me as that way. So I'm not part of many. It's just like the polls, like these polls come out and it's like, you can't really trust the polls because you polled 1,000 people. Like, all right, well, you didn't poll me, so I'm not part of that. Or you went to a leftist area and took a poll, or you went to a conservative area and took a poll. Like you didn't, it's not equal, like 50-50 Democrats, Republicans, or 50-50 religious, non-religious, or whatever. So the things that you see in a lot of these media companies is seen as fact because you saw a news article and it's not really fact. So it's going to be up to us as individuals to not just look at, like, if you see a news source, it's going to be up to us um to journalist that shit and find the truth of it. And it's going to be damn hard to find because the truth is it's always hidden and nobody wants you to find out what the truth is. This country is designed to keep us separate, keep us angry, and keep us divided. That's why there's 2 parties. So that's my whole thought on the truth aspect of the truth and fact aspect of it, because I don't want to go down a road where I see a news article and I'm like, oh, that's the fucking truth, and then I turn on C-SPAN and I'm just, because I watch that on background noise a lot of the times, and uh, just all of a sudden I just just hear that they're talking about the news article that I was just now reading, and it's just completely opposite of what the news article was saying. And then you look back and you find out that that news organization is funded by the federal government. Like, and that goes on both sides. It has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat.
I want to use one example because when you talk in general terms, you can't prove a point. So let's talk about the recent Social Security funding 200-year-olds nonsense that's been going around.
How do you know it's nonsense? Because somebody told you it was nonsense?
All right, so we have...
You see my point?
Exactly, and I'm going to go through and cite my sources about everything, so just bear with me. And this is part of the challenges. You've been told and conditioned to discredit any source that's not one. So we have Trump and all the MAGA Republicans have their own propaganda and their own media control. I mean, there's liberal applications too, but this example of the Social Security funding, we have President Trump standing at the podium saying that 200-year-olds are getting Social Security and all of these numbers that were instantly disproven by multiple resources, CBS News, Forbes, CNN. Now, even the Social Security OIG report states the specifics of that chart that is being shown. So what we're seeing here is anybody from the right-wing media can show this president or these MAGA Republicans a chart and tell them it's this, and they will push that as fact to not only themselves, but the American people. And all it takes is 5 minutes of reading the full report, the full article, the full document of whatever it is, and you can instantly see through it. So that's just one example. And if you want to do some research, you can. But again, all of that in that table came from the Social Security software that was based on legacy programming language. It had it says it lacked the date type in one of the fields. So some entries were missing, which defaults to a reference point more than 150 years ago. But that does not mean anybody got Social Security, because that system will automatically stop at the age of 115 regardless. So the level of lies that come out form people's opinion of it. And so if you come out and say 5 lies and then use those lies to justify one point, the point is invalid based on all those lies. And I'm a super cynical person. You can ask everybody in my close circle. I'm so cynical about everything. And
So
that's
this,
how I approach it. So I
yeah,
look for
I
fact
understand.
and truth
I've
in
known you
everything.
for years. I've known you for years. I know how you are.
Yeah.
So an example of misinformation and
Well, hold on.
lies, right?
Please, if you
Oh,
would, grace me with a response about that Social Security thing, because that's being peddled super hard.
I
Okay.
am. I'm talking about that right now.
Okay.
So it's actually it's a response to both misinformation, um, and the Social Security. So if you just go on Google and you just type in 200-year-olds plus Social Security number, you'll see article after article after article, and ABC News, whoever, and it will all say Trump exposed, Trump lied, Trump this, Trump that. And then so I clicked on one to see what it was actually saying, and it's basically saying uh these are the numbers people in each age bucket would. That's not the right. Here it is. Uh, Trump repeated the falsehood at Tuesday's press briefing in Florida, saying that we have millions and millions of people over 100 years old receiving Social Security. The latest data shows about 90,000 beneficiaries aged 99 or older received Social Security. So I can understand the verbiage of, because Trump over exaggerates. He does. Everything is huge. Everything is blah blah blah. It's fantastic. This is the most beautiful wall in the world. I understand that he does that. But whenever you see news article after news article saying Trump completely lied, there's nobody fucking getting Social Security over the age of 100 or whatever, and then you read down in the article and it'll say a number. It'll say like 90,000, and this is just this article. I saw one a while ago that said like there was 800,000 people over the age of 100. So, and that's directly what I'm talking about like who's got the actual fact? Like where's the actual number at? So I'm gonna go over to I'm gonna see if I can find the fact on the Gov White
Again,
House.
since 2015, the Social Security Administration automatically stops benefits for anyone listed older than 115 years old unless proof of
Unless
life is provided.
unless there's fraud.
Oh, okay. Again, talk
Do
about
you think that
fraud, but everyone,
do you
again,
think that there's not any fraud going on that? Do you think there's not
okay.
any money laundering going on?
Okay,
The
so
United States is the
again,
biggest
the
money
system
laundering
will
scheme in
stop
the
it
world.
automatically when you're 115, unless proof of life is provided. So you're saying that there may be somebody that's authorizing those payments without proof of life.
I'm sure there is.
Okay, so
It's just
you're
like so
saying
at the end
that
of
that will not be caught in the quarterly audits that happen in every one of these organizations,
the
or
Pentagon has
that
failed every
so
audit
that
it's
person would
had
also
in the
be in it.
last 20 years.
Say again.
The Pentagon has failed every audit it's had in the last 20 years.
Okay, I'm not talking about the
You know
Pentagon.
what? No. I'm saying I'm trying to give you an example because That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that during these audits, they're not getting caught, and it is because the people the reason they're not getting caught is because the people that are committing the fraud are the ones that are controlling the data. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, it's the same exact thing as, you're part of a big company, right? You're a worldwide company, and I'm not going to get into any specifics about that. Well, I'm just going to call it a big company, right? So you're in
Yeah.
part of this giant corporation, and at the end of the year, they say we have to spend X amount of dollars, or we can't get funding next year, or it'll limit our funding for the next year, or whatever, right? So that $3 billion that they had left, and they buy everybody new OLED TVs, new gym equipment. They take all the old stuff and they just throw it in the garbage. And it could have been old stuff, as in last year, and they just replace that stuff so they can continue funding for the next year. Everybody knows that happens. That is fraud, and that is exactly what's happening in the Social Security Department. And it's not just the Social Security Department. Medicare's involved, Medicaid's involved. All of these different organizations are involved, and they all do the same shit, which is, let me spend a bunch of money so that it's the same thing billionaires do at the end of the year. Well, in order for me to continue to get it using that loophole to keep my money, I have to spend a bunch of money on, I don't know, a fucking yacht, a Maserati, a fucking something. And then they can take that car, drive it for a year, and then at the end of the year, they can donate it to charity, and they get to keep their money. It's the same thing.
Okay,
Like,
so
these loopholes are there, and they're designed to help people that have a lot of fucking money. Because I can't enjoy that shit. I can't just take all, like, oh, I got this extra money laying over. Let me go buy a brand new car, and I can write it off on taxes.
so much
They
to
all
unpack
do
there.
that.
So much.
It's because it's
A,
true. They all do that.
I will agree with you. Let's focus on our common ground here. Common ground is, I will say that budget systems that require you to maintain a certain level or you'll lose it the next year. I think that is a horrible process, because yes, you get to wasteful spending. That is a process that's implemented in our company, is to where if you don't use your budget in a fiscal year, you will lose it the next year under
And
the
that waste
justification where you didn't
and
need it
that
last year. So I
so
agree with that. That
right.
is
I want to take it a step further real quick though. And because anybody in this entire
hold on.
world
I
can
think we're
agree
going
on
too,
what I'm
we're
saying.
straying too far from our topics here.
Wait, wait, I gotta say
I
this.
wanted to
I
focus on a
gotta
couple
say
things.
this.
Go
I
ahead.
know we can focus on it. I'm gonna say this though. So what you had just said is, yes, that is fraudulent spending. So that fraudulent spending is
I didn't
given
say it
by
was
the federal.
fraudulent. No, that is not what I said.
What did you
I
say? Because
said that I
I heard the
don't
word
agree
fraudulent.
with that policy and it's stupid, but it's not
Okay,
fraud. It's
it is fraud.
waste, but it's not fraud. Fraud is deliberate
It is fraud.
action. What?
It is fraud. I can tell you why. I can
Uh,
100% explain to you why it's fraud, because that funding that you get at that big commercial level it comes from the federal government. The federal government says, if you don't spend this money, we're not going to give you the same amount of funding next year, because obviously you don't need it because you're not spending that type of money, right? That money comes from the American people, the taxpayers. So that in that case, it is fraudulent, because just like you just said, it is designed to uh what how did you word it? I can't remember, but it's designed to uh, discredit and manipulate how they get that funding.
so
Right?
in your
You see what I'm
scenario,
saying?
to where people are taking that money and somehow buying cars with it, with other people's
No,
social
no, no.
security
That's I
money,
was
like,
talking. No, I was talking about the billionaires and their tax write-offs at the end of the year. Just give that car to charity, and you get to keep that. You just get to write it off
so
as
you
a charity.
realize
You get to
if
get
you
that
could
money.
fix a couple of tax loopholes that affect those billionaires, you could far exceed the money that you're saving with all the DOGE's
Agreed.
cuts, right?
Well, I wouldn't say all of Doja's cuts, because they're not done yet, and that's not a perfect organization. So
But still,
I'm
we're
gonna give
talking
them
about $2
time.
billion that could easily be accounted by taxing billionaires properly. So while you're
Agreed.
screaming about all
Agreed.
these savings and saving this money, with one stroke of the pen and proper taxing of Elon Musk alone would do a better job of saving the company or the sorry, too busy at work, saving the country money. Like that
I wouldn't say it would do a better job of saving the country money, but what I can agree with you that yes, it would help tremendously. But what I would further take that and say, by doing that and then cutting funding from all of these places and just getting rid of these organizations and then starting over from scratch up and saying this is how we're going to build it. These are the policies that you're going to be allowed to put in place. No more fraud, no more waste, no more spending. That's a, why can't you do both? Why do
so
you have to
what
do
is
just
your
one?
acceptable loss of life to save
Except
that money?
what how is one thing affecting the other? Like one hand's not watching the other. I don't understand.
Okay, so the funding that was stopped was for overseas food supply, Ebola prevention,
Good,
the nine
good.
11 health fund. These are things that directly cost lives. So, my question to you was, in this scorched earth of stop all programs that the US is paying for,
But you,
what is the acceptable
but
loss
you
of
didn't.
life in that scenario?
But you, but you didn't hear me whenever I said get rid of the programs that are currently here because what we're doing now is not fucking helping anybody and it's
But
not saving.
that's my
Because
point. These programs that are currently here are actively feeding people. And on January 20th, when the
are they
funding was
feeding?
stopped, okay, hold on,
Are they?
please.
Yeah.
On January 20th, when the funding is stopped, people stopped getting food. There are food stores, piles of food that have nobody to deliver it because USAID funding was stopped. So now that food is spoiling. That is waste. Waste that was caused by stopping these workers from delivering the food. So, yes, again, audit, account for the money being spent, but don't say, okay, stop the funding. Okay, 20 people died. Okay, now resume it because I think it's okay. Like there's a different way to analyze that without the loss of life. So, my question to you, who is okay with all of these funding cuts, with the hard stop of every dollar that's going out that you don't like, it is directly leading to a loss of life. So, what is your acceptable limit?
Well, don't do that.
Oh,
Don't
sorry.
say
Okay.
you're.
Okay. We'll
Don't
park
say.
it
Don't
there.
say. Don't. No. 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 Don't say you who is okay with this because
Oh, sorry.
that's
Sorry.
not what I'm saying. So you can't help anybody else until you help yourself. Can we agree on that? So if we're both if we both have uh, I break my leg in June or January and you break your leg in June, I can't help you until my leg heals, right? This
Okay.
is what I'm saying. Like I mean it's a bad example, but you can't help somebody until you help yourself.
I like where
So
you're going with that, but let me take it a
so
step further.
we
If
have
we're both
we
hiking and we both fall, but I can walk a little bit better than you can, I will still help you.
I'm not sucking the poison out of your ass if you get bit by a snake though. So this is
Maybe that's the lack of common ground. I will suck the
that would be
venom
the
out of most of your body parts.
if it's a toe, I got you. So specifically what I'm talking about though
Yeah.
is like you hear me whenever I say break down these federal organizations, but what you're not hearing me, and I don't know if we're going to come to anything is one, we do need to break down these systems so that we can rebuild them because right now they're not working, and two, um, there was a point I was gonna make. Um, there was so much talking about. There was so
I
much
know.
talking. I
That's why
lost
I
it.
was trying
I
to keep
lost
us
it.
in scope here. So I'm going to say this, and I think we'll disagree on that point. I think the Doge cuts are scorched earth, and I think there's a real world consequence, and it's happening in lives, whether it be the food supply, the Ebola prevention, or the veterans calling the crisis line that had nobody to answer the phones. I do feel there's a direct impact in these cuts, and it could be better served by actually going through it with a fine tooth comb, rather than a scorched earth policy. So I want to go back.
I think I got it. I think what I was trying to say is uh um the everything that's happening right now is brand new, and everybody's freaking the fuck out, and I understand that, rightfully so. Everybody's got their own opinions. Everybody thinks their way they're gonna think, and I don't want to persuade anybody from doing any of that. However, I had said earlier that doing something is better than doing nothing, and currently what's in place right now is not working. So break down these organizations and build them back without fraud, without waste. Like the government is supposed to be there to work for the people, right? Right now, they're not working for the people. They're not. They're simply they're not.
And again, this is the common theme that's being regurgitated from the MAGA party without any
It's
proof.
not. The proof is all over if you open your eyes and you look. Just don't tell me.
Again, it's something we're not going to agree on right now. I agree there is fraud, waste, and abuse in places, but I think it's a very small number that is being hyped up to distract you from what they're doing. They're firing their inspector generals, they're firing the people that keep them honest, they're firing the people that stop them from doing unconstitutional things, and that's
good. Fire them.
Say again.
I said good. Fire them. Get rid of them. That's my position on the government. This is why I'm conservative, is because I do not believe that the government is there to help you, and because they're not. We were both in the army. We know that the military is as close as you can get to a communist society, and the government would be like just our higher ups, right? So let's just use that as an example. They were not there for us. They would never be there for us. And it's the same thing with the United States government now. They're not there for us. And the more power we get back as the people, and the more our money stops getting spent for bullshit overseas that has nothing to do with us, the better off we are. We can use that money to do anything that we want here before we send off any money to anywhere else. And that money that we send off somewhere else, it should be given back to us in one form or the other, whether it's minerals or whether it's just a complete payback. Like we have to get out of the habit of, one, trusting the government, and two, just sending our money to fucking Serbia for something or other, or Afghanistan for Sesame Street, or all of this shit that's getting sent out for one reason or the other. Stop sending that money out. Leave our money right here. Put in something to where like if this money's not spent, it just goes away. It doesn't just go away. Like I know they kind of balance the budget off of the money that they bring in. They have to spend it immediately, but they don't fucking have to. Like we should be in a surplus, not $35 trillion behind.
I agree, but we won't tax our billionaires.
I mean, so everybody says you don't tax the billionaires. The top 1% pays the majority of the taxes in this country. They pay more taxes than all of us little people combined. So I don't understand. It baffles me on why that gets brought up. Like, oh, the billionaires aren't getting taxed. Well, they are. It's just not in the same way, because there's so many loopholes, just like I was just saying, where they can just spend $4 billion on a yacht and then donate it to charity, and then they get to keep their money. Like, I mean, the loopholes need to go away. Not if we took away with the loopholes, you would see far more transparency on the taxes that they're actually paying. What's your thoughts?
No, I agree. Close the loopholes. And
see, we agree again.
Yeah. I was saying this the other day, and then I want to go back to the Social Security stuff that Trump was saying, because I want to focus on the lies and misinformation coming directly from that. But
this is going to have to be the last point, because I have 5 minutes.
Okay. Then I want to go back to the Social Security thing then, because I want to understand how he can stand there and you say he exaggerates points just to make it seem better, bigger, faster, about all of that. It's not exaggerating points. The president is standing at the podium saying that 150-year-olds are getting Social Security. That's not an exaggeration. So it's a fucking lie.
If that's what's being
Now,
reported to him, then why is it a lie? That's what's being reported to him. So if anybody's lying, it would be Elon. And if he's lying,
agreed. Yes,
and
yes.
if
So
he's if
Elon
it
is lying. All these right
is
wing
it
things are
is it a lie?
lying, and our
Is it
president
a
is not smart enough to read past the headline. And,
hold on?
and
First of all, is it a lie? Whenever that's what so it's being reported to the president by Elon. It's being reported to Elon by his people. Is
who's
it
Elon's
better?
people? Big balls?
Yeah. No, I think he changed his name to Big Balls, didn't he? I don't remember.
Musk?
I remember. Yeah, he changed his name to something on Twitter for a minute. It was pretty hilarious. The trolling is good.
Yeah, yeah. Again, like
But
the
if
report that Trump is holding up says it's a lie. He just doesn't look past the fancy numbers and looks at the chart and says the chart shows this. But if you look at the fine print of the chart, it doesn't. It's just
if if
lies
what
because
if
of
what he's
ignorance.
if what he is doing is just blatantly, obviously lying to people, then what's going to happen is in 4 years, whenever it's time for a re-election, there's no way that the Republicans are going to win an election. That's that. I mean, that's how that works. Is
Well,
because
okay,
we do have a republic. The people are in control, and we can vote in or vote out whoever the fuck we want.
and that's fair
And
until they
and then
start changing rules to benefit them. So if we
it's
want
just
to
like I
focus
was.
on that point and talk about our
Well,
republic and talk about how these lies that are being represented by the president. So when you have news organizations that call Trump out on his lies, what happens?
let's see. It's
They're
one.
banned from the White House.
I'm gonna
They're
I'm
banned
gonna
from the
I'm
press corps.
gonna I'm gonna we're gonna end the conversation here in a second. Before we
Okay.
do, let's both just give out one last point.
Hmm.
My last point would be I was actually just speaking about this, and um, it's everybody's right to vote, right? So that's your solemn right. You're 18. You can join the military. You can vote, right? So that's on top of that. It's not just up to the voter. It's up to you. It's your responsibility to hold that candidate accountable. So whenever we're going through these debates and stuff like that, if we see some new HR bill, something something, blah blah blah, whatever it is, and it's me as I voted for Trump. So if it's something that is put into place now, it's up to me specifically to write my congressman a letter and saying I agree to this or I don't agree with this. And there's so many people that do not follow up with it's not just your responsibility to vote on your candidate, but it's also up to you to um, hold them accountable. So whether it's good or whether it's bad, and if I see something that comes across here where we live, um, it comes across the governor's office, he's going to sign this bill and it's supported by the president or whatever, or it's presented by the president, however you want to say it, then it's up to me to be able to say, I think Trump is wrong on this, or I think I need to call my congressman and let him know, like, I don't agree with this. Please don't vote towards this. So everything that you're saying, I understand. And if we come across an issue um, that I don't agree on, 100% will send that message. I can even save a copy of the letter and we can keep it uh, for our meetings or whatever. But it's going to be up to all of us to do that. You know what I'm saying? So that was the final point I was going to bring up.
Yeah, and I've seen some stuff on the news about across the U.S. people are actually showing up to these meetings with their congressmen to vocalize their disapproval for these things. So I hope that is something that continues to increase. And what I'll do is I'll go and make my final points. And we talk about the misinformation that is coming directly from the podium, directly from the president. And when the media organizations call him out on those lies or any of those things, they're immediately banned from the White House or banned from being able to ask the president questions, which nobody will be able to know the truth when anybody that is willing to speak the truth is shunned or banned from being able to show the truth. And I think that's what carries the real risk. And you talk about how many people can believe them, and it's going to be so much easier to believe these lies when anybody that's willing to dispute or show the truth can't speak up. That's how you silence your critics, and that's where democratic institutions fail. Like, there's real risk in that, whether you support what he's doing or not. The fact that if they dispute what he's saying, he bans them, or like, there's real consequences, and those are all acts of an authoritarian dictator. And that's reminds me of my old pace. Like, I miss the policies and the politics when you would speak softly and carry a big stick instead of speak loudly to hide your little dick.
Well, with that, I think that's going to conclude today's episode, and we'll put a pin in this, and we'll maybe on the next one we can pick it up directly where we left off here, because I think we both have some issues on that topic that we